Country Talk Radio. You're in to all things music.
We once did a gig together, and the band leader was Rich Mullins, and not exactly a good timekeeper. And I got stuck in the middle. I'm really close to Rich's monitor. The time's everywhere. You're trying to steer the ship back another direction. I'm trying to split the difference. And that did not go over well with you at all.
I don't remember.
Dude, in the hallway behind the stage, you put me against a wall and did the thing with your finger into the chest. And you're like, I keep the time.
Really?
You follow me. I'm like, dude, I didn't know what to do, man. I was stuck. I know I agree with you, but I was in this vortex, man. I didn't know what to do. And the guy with the bad time signs my checks, and but you very famously have fantastic time.
Welcome to Intersect Radio, where music, faith, and life converge. With your host, Aaron the A-Train Smith.
Well, all right. Welcome to Intersect Radio. Thank you all for listening today and dropping whatever you're doing, or maybe you're doing something else and listening in. Well, it's all good. I'm glad you're here. Today we have my friend and interviewer today will be Mark Robertson. Mark thought it would be a good idea to ask me questions. So
I sure did. When we did my bit, we did a 2-part on my career, which was awesome and fun. But a lot of my friends were like, why don't you do one where you interview Aaron? Because many of you might not know, Aaron has a ridiculously diverse, great career, but not terribly forthcoming with that information. It's not his nature to talk about himself. But so we're going to interview your host so you can get to know him a little better. Aaron is a musician, quite famously so. Was a Motown session drummer. Played one of your first recordings was Papa Was a Rollin Stone, which went #1 on the Billboard charts, which won 3 Grammys. Mm-hmm. You went on to play with some of the most famous musicians of all time, James Jamerson, Miroslav Vitouš, and then at the cutting edge of the early Christian rock movement as well with Exit Records. And it's just a story that has to be told, I think. So okay. If we let's go all the way back to Durham, North Carolina, and where you showed up.
All right. Well, I showed up on September the 3rd, 1950. I was a twin, but my brother was born dead. And so it was just me, and my mom was very anxious to get me home. So she kind of stole me out of the incubator.
You're kidding.
No. She, they had me in the incubator, and she was like insistent that when she was ready to go home, I had to go with her. So that was that. And I'm told that my first bed was in a dresser drawer.
That's crazy.
She had a pillow in the dresser drawer, and that's where I slept for a while. And I don't remember much about those early years. Like I think I start to remember stuff when I went to school.
Mm-hmm. About
first
5,
grade.
6.
Yeah. And I just remember being very introverted, very quiet, kind of a loner, and not trying to bring any attention to myself.
Mm-hmm.
I would answer questions. It's like, the teacher would ask questions. I wouldn't raise my hand, but if she called me out, I tried to answer the questions. And I tried to act nice, I didn't want to I wouldn't get in trouble.
Right. Did you have siblings, by the way?
No.
Only child. Okay.
Only child.
All right.
Yeah. But my mom tells a story about, and now that I think of it, I remember this part. Before going to school, my grandmother lived in Durham. She lived in the projects, and she had this regular course of the day where, it was like breakfast, cleaning the kitchen, and then she would watch, quote unquote, her stories.
Yeah.
As the world turns,
sure.
All my children, all those things. She'd do that for the rest of the day until it was like dinner time, and cook, and that was the routine at my grandmother's house until I was picked up by my mom. But whenever she was in the kitchen, I was always on the floor with the pots and pans. That was a way to keep me interested, and she'd keep her eye on me and that sort of stuff. And I'm told I used to beat on the pots and pans with a wooden spoon, and they tolerated that because it was keeping me in my place, I guess. They
were already getting you ready to play with the temps.
Yeah, unbeknownst to them.
Well, so if I remember right, your father worked for the American Tobacco Company. Is that correct?
Yeah, he did.
What was your dad like?
My dad was an alcoholic. He was he was weird. He was different.
Yeah.
Being an alcoholic, I never got a chance to see him sober because he was always an alcoholic.
I see.
It was like one drink and he'd be there.
Yeah.
So when I was smaller though, I wasn't aware of that, and our best times were in the morning walking to my grandmother's house, his mother's house, because she lived down the street from the elementary school, and since he had to be at work before school started, I'd get up in the morning with him and we'd walk to my grandmother's house, and he was always on me about keeping up. He would take these long strides. He was like, come on, boy, keep up. And it's like, till I was practically running. Yeah.
What was Durham like back then? So we're talking about, these memories are from like 1956, 1957.
Yeah, starting 1950.
Yeah, that's when you were born. But I'm saying when you're old enough to really remember these things.
Mm-hmm.
What was Durham, and what was it like economically, socially? What was?
Well, we lived in the section of town called Hayti. It was the black section of Durham. W.E.B. Du Bois wrote about it because it was a self-sustaining black community, and one of the few in the United States at the time. We had our own banks, our own life insurance company.
Like a sovereign.
Yeah.
Yeah, crazy.
Restaurants, movie theater. We had everything we needed on that side of the railroad track.
And it's probably a good thing in those days.
Well, yeah.
Because it wasn't encouraged to cross the tracks back then.
We had to cross the tracks to go to downtown, to go to Sears and Roebuck, to go to the record bar to buy records, or a lot of the clothing stores, But other than that, no, we never went across the railroad tracks. It was, for one, we never felt we were wanted on the other side of the railroad track. And two, we had everything we needed.
Right.
On our side.
Safer just to stay put.
Yeah.
Did that have a strong sense of community, though, that the fact that you were more or less stuck with each other in that section?
Oh, yeah. It was a very strong sense of community, because you got to remember that these people their relatives had come out of slavery.
Yeah.
And so to have a community like that was a pretty intense thing.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I'm wondering now, were you kind of a loner as a kid, or did you have a peer group that were part of making you who you are?
I was pretty much a loner. I had cousins who I hung out with, but here's the funny thing about cousins. If you had a fight with one cousin, you got to fight them all.
Sure. Sure.
Because no matter, you guys can be getting along just great, you're all family.
Yeah.
And then the minute you have a riff with one of your cousins, it's you against them.
Yeah, sure.
So I had a terrible temper when I was a kid.
Yeah.
But yeah, I had a bad temper, but part of that temper was a self-preservation thing.
Yeah, of course.
Of
course.
Talk in your mic, Mark.
I'm talking right now.
Yeah, your mic's not. Talk again.
I'm talking.
Oh, yeah, there
okay.
you are.
Okay. Well, go ahead.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, I had a really bad temper, and I justified it because it was self-preservation, self-protection sort of thing.
Absolutely.
Because a lot of times I'd be walking the streets by myself. I used to, my dad got me a job at what you call the liquor houses,
mm-hmm.
because everything, alcoholic beverage was controlled by the government, by the state government.
Yeah.
And so he would go to these liquor houses, and so he got me a job at one liquor house once, and every Saturday I had to go there, and the lady who ran the house would give me money, send me to the store to buy chasers,
mm-hmm.
like 7-Up, Coca-Cola, RC, that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And after a while, the kids in that neighborhood found out that I had money and I was going to the store.
Oh yeah.
So there were several times when I had to like fight my way back to the house,
right,
or find another route back, or find a different route to the store so I couldn't be detected.
And if you're running errands for drinkers, if you did give up the money, that would be probably even worse trouble for you than the kids.
Yeah, it would have been bad.
Yeah,
it would have been bad because I would have been seen as weak.
Mm-hmm.
It would have been bad in that way,
On either side, yeah, you can't. I would imagine in the cultural situation you were in, that was the one thing you could never afford to be.
Right.
Yeah, you had to be tough.
Right. You had to be tough.
That's crazy. So if you're a loner, more or less, you've got cousins, you've got your mom and dad and your grandmother. How did music come into this?
Well, my mom sang in church. She was a first soprano. She joined the church when she was 17 years old, and she joined the choir at that age as well. And she stayed in the choir until she was 80.
Crazy.
Singing first chair soprano.
That's beautiful.
So she sang in the choir, plus she was in charge of all the children's ministries.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to go with her to church.
Right.
Twice a week, Tuesdays and Wednesdays. And at choir rehearsal, I would be the only kid there. I'd be the only person sitting in the sanctuary who wasn't in the choir. The choir would be up on the choir stand, and all the lights would be on them, and I'd be sitting in the dark in the sanctuary. Your
mom never tried to make you a singer?
Well, yes, she did. And she did.
Okay. So you did sing in the choir ultimately? I
sang in, there was a guy at my elementary school who put together a a group of boys. He wanted to emulate the Vienna Boys Choir.
Mm-hmm.
And so I got to be in that, and I sang soprano in that. So between that and going to choir rehearsal with my mom, I got to know a lot of hymns and a lot of well-known classical vocal tunes.
Sure. Would you consider yourself a good singer back then?
I don't know.
You can't remember?
I can't remember. I knew how to sing. What I could do was sing harmonies.
Yeah.
And not, you know how some people, you can't sing harmony with them because then they end up singing your part after like 2 beats.
Of course.
I could sing harmony.
You could stick to your part.
Yeah, I could stick to my part really well. And that was because my mom used to sing in the house. Mm-hmm. And sometimes I'd sing with her.
Now, did any of this make you think, I would like to do music, or was that just something you did with your mom in church?
Just something I did with my mom. I never thought that, oh, yeah, this is what I'd like to do. Never.
Okay. What are your earliest memories of what you thought you might like to do?
Well, I remember junior high school, people would come around, career people. And one thing was working at General Motors, designing cars. I thought that was pretty cool.
It is cool.
Yeah. They came there and they had this futuristic vision for car design. A lot of them we've seen. Mm-hmm. And I thought that'd be very cool to do. But after they left, there was no motivation for that sort of thing,
Yeah, that makes sense.
Where we, in our community, okay, in our community and in black culture during that time, there were two different viewpoints on how black people should act, what they should pursue, and why. Mm-hmm. You had the Booker T. Washington vision, and you had the W.E.B. Du Bois vision.
Okay.
A lot of our community embraced the Booker T. Washington. We had American Tobacco Company was there. Mm-hmm.
What would that vision be?
That vision is pretty much keep your mouth shut, be grateful for what you have, learn a trade, and keep your place. That kind of thing.
Okay.
Not too ambitious. There wasn't a lot of motivation to be ambitious.
Yeah, because a white person can be ambitious. A black person is uppity.
Exactly. And even black people saw you as being uppity.
Oh, interesting.
Yes. So, it's really weird, It's just like the trouble that light-skinned blacks have in the black community, or used to.
Wow, we're gonna pick up right where we left off. After we do some station IDs, we're gonna hear from our sponsors.
Yes.
Talk more with the mighty Aaron A. Train Smith.
Are you serious about your music? Are you ready to run with the big dogs? The experts at Pitbull Audio have the gear to get you into the game. From leading manufacturers like Mesa Boogie, Fender, Pioneer, and American Audio. To sound your best, you need the best. Pitbull Audio can deliver in rehearsal, on stage, and into the big time. Dropping beats, shredding guitar, or making the crowd roar. Whatever you dream, Pitbull Audio can help make it happen. We are Pitbull Audio. We want you to play it loud. PitbullAudio.com.
You know what's all around you every waking moment of your life? Marketing. You're choking on it. I'm Scott Robertson, and when it comes to strategic PR, branding, and marketing, I've seen it all. And actually, I'm still seeing it because bad marketing never sleeps. Join me each week on May the Best Brand Win, right here on Intertalk Radio, and learn how to make the marketing for your brand unforgettable.
Hi, I'm Tim Dolbear, the host of Sound Experience on Intertalk Radio. Each week, I talk with top professional audio engineers, producers, musicians, and the manufacturers that make the tools that we use in the studio each and every day. From capturing the perfect take to mastering your final release, and the tools and how the pros use them, we are going to dive deep into their process and learn from their experience. I look forward to you joining us each week on Sound Experience with me, your host, Tim Dolbear.
This is Jackie Bertoni from Jackie's Groove. Come join me weekly on my journey through the music business as I take you behind the velvet rope, interviewing industry notables such as Al Di Meola, Michael McDonald, and Al Jarreau, to name but a few. Listen to their stories on being in the studios recording #1 hits and onto the stages throughout the globe. Allow me to be your music historian. You can hear me live every Monday at 2 p.m. and every Wednesday at 12 noon Pacific Standard Time or 24/7 on jackiesgroove.com. Ready to get your groove on?
Welcome to Intersect Radio, where music, faith, and life converge. With your host, Aaron the A-Train Smith.
All right, we're back. That was the amazing, great mega hit, the Temptations, Papa's a Rollin Stone, featuring Aaron Smith on drums. Who played bass on that, just out of curiosity?
James Jamerson.
Okay. I would have guessed Babbitt for some reason. Anyway.
You know, it was either James Jamerson or this other guy, Leroy Taylor.
Okay. Because it was a little choppy for Jamerson.
Yeah, I think it was Leroy.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
But here, the thing about that, though, is they were both in the studio.
Oh, crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy. Wow. We'll definitely get to that because that's, selfishly, that's a lot of what I want to get to as well. But when we left off, we were at the Booker T. Washington vision of Black America, which was to remember your place, which was very much bolstered by your community's idea of how life should be.
Right.
Versus the Du Bois point of view. You want to start there?
Well, yeah, I think Du Bois had a more intellectual sort of approach. He believed that there was more credibility in the intellectual life, going to college, that sort of thing. You know, he was really into that. And we had some of that there. There were forward-thinking teachers at my school, and we had different people move in the community, like other Black families would move in the community from some other place, and their kid would come into the school with a different way of thinking, than us.
Right.
And if you got to know them, some of that stuff would rub off on you, and they would inspire other people, and have friends who now would go, oh, yeah, that sounds interesting.
Oh, cool. I see that.
I want to do that too. You know, that kind of thing.
Oh, that's cool.
But what happened to me was I got in the 6th grade, you could start band.
Okay.
And my mom was singing in the senior choir, and our choir director was the high school band director. But we had a different band director in junior high school.
Yeah.
But these two guys both played saxophone, and they played in this band on the weekend called the Jammin' Jammers. They played all the top 40 hits and stuff. Very popular band in the city. We had a lot of music in Durham.
Okay,
that I would learn about eventually. And so my mom asked Mr. Mitchell, the high school band director, if I should get in the band, if he thought that would be a good thing for me to pursue. And he said, "Oh, sure," So she quite naturally agreed, and it's like, well, what do you want to play? Drums. Okay, great.
So you knew from the start
that I wanted to play drums.
I see. Okay.
I wasn't interested in anything else.
Okay.
Yeah, that was what I knew. I don't know how that is, but that's.
You don't know what made you think that?
Yeah.
It wasn't hearing a certain drummer on a record or anything? No.
But my dad went to a pawn shop and got me a mahogany snare drum, but I couldn't use it because the first year in band, the drummers have to play on the tables in the cafeteria.
Mm-hmm.
So we had about 25 drummers there at the beginning, and I think at the end of the school year we had 6.
Yeah.
That was a way of cutting to the chase. You know?
Definitely. That makes sense too.
Yeah. If you couldn't sustain being there and wait it out and wax on, wax off sort of thing, then it was okay. But, I never knew I could leave. I never thought about leaving. I just did my thing, that was my personality. This is something I was supposed to do, and I had to do it. And if I didn't do it, I might get punished.
Yeah.
That sort of thinking.
Did you? At what point did you start getting some kind of joy from? I'm assuming playing rudiments on a table in the cafeteria is not all that joyful an experience necessarily.
No, it's not.
But were you able to extrapolate what that could be?
No, I kind of got in the boat, and it went downstream or upstream, and I was just in the boat. I just went with the flow. So
what was your light bulb moment with drums?
My light bulb moment was that next year going into junior high school.
Okay.
And we had a marching band. And my dad, I had to get a better drum.
Okay.
So that's what the band director told my mom, because she would ask him, well, how is he doing? And he would get word from Mr. Edgerton that I was doing good and I was hanging in there. And so my mom said, well, what should I do? And Mr. Mitchell said, get him a better drum. So my dad went down to this music store and that was selling the entire drum collection from the University of North Carolina in Chapel Hill. Mm-hmm. They were getting a whole new set of marching drums and stuff. So I had this marine pearl snare drum that was yellow, because marine pearl fades to yellow after a long time.
Yeah.
And I had that drum, and man, we were in band rehearsal, and we started marching. And we had a cadence to play. So first, I learned the cadence, and then we went out on the field to march. And I think it was like the second week of doing that. And nobody could keep up. Nobody could, keep up with the tempo.
I see.
The other drummers were slowing down. And I just knew that, we weren't supposed to slow down.
So you had a pretty good sense of time from the get-go.
Well, yeah, kind of, yeah. And so Mr. Edgerton noticed that in me, put me at the head of the line, made a single line going around it was a baseball field, diamond, and put me at the head of the line and told everybody to keep up with me. That was my moment.
Ah, interesting.
Mm-hmm.
That's that's funny. Is we once had, now you probably don't even remember, we once did a gig together, and the band leader was Rich Mullins, and not exactly a good timekeeper. He had pretty occasionally bad time. We're in a weird bad room, and I got stuck in the middle. I'm really close to Rich's monitor. The time's everywhere. You're trying to steer the ship back another direction. I'm trying to split the difference. And that did not go over well with you at all.
I don't remember.
Dude, in the hallway behind the stage, you put me against a wall and did the thing with your finger into the chest. And you're like, I keep the time.
Really?
You follow me. I'm like, dude, I didn't know what to do, man. I was stuck. I know I agree with you, but I was in this vortex, man. I didn't know what to do. And the guy with the bad time signs my checks, and but you very famously have fantastic time. I know.
But, that was a moment for me because after that I had friends. I had friends from a whole different class.
So the end of the loner days.
Yeah, huh?
The less of a loner
days.
now.
Yeah. I can't say that we were middle class. I think we were kind of poor because my dad gambled the money away and, drank. And
you were probably middle class for your neighborhood.
Maybe.
Yeah.
If my dad hadn't spent all of his money, yes, we could have been. But then my mom had to go to work and take all these odd jobs and the electricity would be off, the water would be off. She and I eating dinner by candlelight and, biscuits,
Yeah, sure. Dad's off somewhere.
Yeah. So I got to know a whole different class of people. And some of those guys are some of my best friends still.
To this day.
Hardworking dads.
And during this time, though, it was still all black musicians, all black school, correct? Okay.
Mm-hmm. Very segregated. And dads, strong families, dads who didn't drink, they were coaches and teachers and bankers and stuff like that, And so I started hanging out with these guys and just playing drums just kind of drew them to me,
Yeah.
And it got me out of my shell, and I went on to be like drum captain in junior high school, all my junior high school career. I played timpani and concert band.
So you had to learn to read?
Mm-hmm. And then when I got in high school, I was there 1 year when I wasn't in charge.
Wow. I could see, knowing you today, I could see the craft of it's very important to you, the nuts and bolts of it, learning theory, learning to read, knowing whereas that's where a lot of young musicians check out. They just want to bang on stuff and play loud or whatever. Mm-hmm. But you actually had a real fascination with the craft of it.
I did. Yeah. Because that kind of excellence was kind of demanded of our band instructor.
You were going the Dubois route.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, he was like gearing us towards college.
That's awesome.
You can do this. You can go to college and do this. And for some reason in high school, they introduced jazz band, and they got a drum kit. And my band director looked at me and said, "You're going to play that." I'm like, "What?"
That's your first time behind a kit.
Yeah. How do you do that?
Had you thought about it before that?
I hadn't thought about it before.
You were just doing your thing in the context of the thing.
Yeah.
So it still hadn't crossed your mind you wanted to play like Buddy Rich or play a kit?
Nope. Hadn't crossed my mind at all.
So you didn't really have no records or anything?
We didn't have a record player.
Okay. So just the radio occasionally. So really music itself hadn't really bit you yet as much as the craft of just being great at something.
Right. I mean, I found the voice. I found my place playing drums, but I didn't look any further than when I was going to graduate from high school. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And then when I got...
I'm sure you want to figure out how to get out, how to move up.
Yeah. And after that first year in high school and playing a trap kit for the jazz band, we didn't play that much. But for some reason, my band director wanted me to play in the Jammin' Jammers, who already had a drummer, And once again, my band director tells my mom at choir rehearsal one day, "Get him a drum set." And she goes, "Okay." Goes down to the pawn shop, gets me this E.W. Kent Champagne Pearl drum set that I wish I had now.
I bet.
Yeah. And I played it in my living room, And I went to the gigs, and but on the gigs, the other drummer would only let me play the songs he didn't like because we just had one drum kit, you know.
Why did he let you play at all?
Because he kind of had to.
Okay.
You know.
I would think your ego.
They brought me in.
Yeah.
You know, and both Mr. Edgerton and Mr. Mitchell brought me in. And I was kind of like the roadie, too. I would set up his drums and tear them down. So it was all to his advantage as well.
I got you.
You know?
I got you.
And then I would play these songs, and when he was ready to play, he would walk up to the stage and go, "Okay, Love Smith, that's it." And because I was like 16 years old, when he said that was it, the rest of my night was spent in the dressing room in the back because I was too young to come out front and mingle.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah. So I would have to sit back there and drink my Cokes.
Right.
And just listen, you know. So after about a year of that, Mr. Mitchell told my mom to get me a better drum kit because I couldn't bring my E.W. Kents to the gig. They just, at the time, they just weren't.
That wouldn't do.
It's like a toy drum to them. And so my mom, you know, my mom tells me this story. I think I posted it on Facebook recently because of Mr. Grady Tate. Grady Tate's really famous jazz drummer, and he was from Durham. He's from my hometown.
Okay.
And my mom knew his mom. And my mom told me that before she ever considered letting me go out on the road, she went over to Mrs. Tate's house and asked her opinion about it, you know, about the whole drumming thing.
Right.
You know, and Mrs. Tate was, you know, very positive about it because she said it really had worked out for Grady, and it had, you know, and that, you know, you got to let the boy go, do his thing, you know. So my mom.
We're talking about 15, 16 right in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So my mom sent me to New York with a cashier's check. I guess she had already, these are the things you don't think about then, but thinking about them now, she must have called ahead because I had a cashier's check for the exact amount of money to get that drum kit. It was a 5-piece Ludwig kit with cymbal stands, hi-hat, throne, snare stand, and silver sparkle. And she put me on a bus with a cashier's check. I got on the bus, and a friend of our family met me at Grand Central Station. We walked down the street a few blocks to Manny's.
Wow.
Manny's was a little hole in the wall at the time. But, yeah, that's where I got my first kit.
That's absolutely crazy. I'm assuming your teacher had something to do with this for your mom to even know what drums to get.
Yep.
And all the while, we still haven't got to the light bulb yet, really.
No, we haven't. We haven't.
That's so crazy, especially if we see what your life was like not just 4 years after this, what we're talking about right now. Yeah. And that's absolutely crazy. We're gonna do some more commercials and sponsors, all that stuff, and we're gonna continue this saga and look for a light bulb.
Hi, this is Tim Dolbear, host of Sound Experience here on Intertalk Radio. And Source Connect by Source Element is the essential tool that we use to link between my studio in Austin, Texas, and the WS radio station in San Diego. Now, with Source Connect, not only can we communicate in real time and with HD audio, but it's synced up and is of a high enough quality that I can use it for real-time ADR work, remote recording, and overdubbing, and it even allows me to remotely control a DAW. Source Connect by Source Element. Affordable, high-quality audio and video connection over the internet for all of your production needs.
You know what's all around you every waking moment of your life? Marketing. You're choking on it. I'm Scott Robertson, and when it comes to strategic PR, branding, and marketing, I've seen it all. And actually, I'm still seeing it because bad marketing never sleeps. Join me each week on May the Best Brand Win, right here on Intertalk Radio, and learn how to make the marketing for your brand unforgettable.
Make this your vinyl night. I'm John J.R. Robinson, and every week, music creation comes alive through stories, experiences, and sounds when vinyl records filled our hearts and minds. My friends and I share our tips and techniques used in creation of iconic tracks for recording artists such as Michael Jackson, Eric Clapton, Quincy Jones, and Steve Winwood, to name a few. Vinyl has emerged hot, and the soul of vinyl defines art and passion which burns deepest at night. Tune in every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on intertalkradio.com.
Are you serious about your music? Are you ready to run with the big dogs? The experts at Pitbull Audio have the gear to get you into the game. From leading manufacturers like Mesa Boogie, Fender, Pioneer, and American Audio. To sound your best, you need the best. Pitbull Audio can deliver in rehearsal, on stage, and into the big time. Dropping beats, shredding guitar, or making the crowd roar. Whatever you dream, Pitbull Audio can help make it happen. We are Pitbull Audio. We want you to play it loud. PitbullAudio.com.
Welcome to Intersect Radio, where music, faith, and life converge. With your host, Aaron the A-Train Smith.
Yeah, I'm feeling good tonight. I feel like I want to ride that A-Train. Y'all want to ride that A-Train with it? Oh, come on, I can't hear. You want to ride the A-Train? There it is. The A-Train himself, Mr. Rollin Smith, percussion.
Heck yeah.
Woo!
Man,
That's
I remember hearing that years ago, and I'm like, God, you were just a kid when you did that. It's crazy. I mean, you're very young when you did that.
32.
Oh, no. Okay, I'm thinking of when you did the Temps.
Yeah.
No, that's when you guys did that.
This is the 77s.
Oh, that's right. Oh, shoot. Sorry. I was thinking of that real early solo I heard, just the solo of.
Uh-huh. Oh, yeah, the introduction.
77. Gosh, that's a whole other interesting thing to get to, because that's such a movement into itself that's very important. But right now, you don't even care about being a drummer.
Right.
You're 15, 16, somewhere in there. Yet, it needs to be said, within 4 years of being 16, you're playing on a number one Motown hit.
Yeah.
So at some point, it had to occur to you that I kind of like this.
Well, yes, it did. You know, after I got my brand new drum kit, and once it arrived, that very next weekend that the Jammers had a gig, I took my drum kit and I set it up right next to Peter's drum kit. Peter had a black Ludwig drum kit, and that's one reason I got a silver, because I thought it would be cool.
You'd stand out.
Silver.
Oh, yeah, sure.
And so we started playing together.
Interesting.
Yeah. And as I got better and better and better, I'd play more. And then I started singing as well. You know, I did a Marvin Gaye, Tammy Terrell thing with Peter's girlfriend, and I did a Sam and Dave thing with this other guy. We had like 5 different shows in our band.
Okay.
You know? And so when I was singing, Peter was playing drums. When I wasn't singing, we were both playing drums. And then after a while, Peter got the gig with Junior Walker and the All-Stars.
Okay.
And he moved to Detroit.
So this guy was no schlub.
No. He's a really good player. Great guy, too. I learned a lot from him by listening in the dressing room.
See, I thought this story was going to be you came in and just showed this guy up and they just got rid of him.
Oh,
but no, he was a class act.
Yeah, he was a class act. We had a lot of great drummers. We had a lot of great bands in Durham. But, you know, and then once I started playing, you know, like when I started playing in marching band at school, I became popular in school.
Yeah.
When I started playing drum sets in clubs, I became popular around town.
With the grown-ups,
Yeah.
the cool people.
Yeah. And they were all older than me.
Sure.
Because my friends couldn't go to the clubs. You know, for one, their parents wouldn't let them, you know,
Right.
and two, they were too young.
Right.
And so I got to be known around town, which is something my dad hated. My dad hated that I was playing in the band. And,
Why do you think that?
well, the band, our star performer was gay. It's homosexual.
Okay.
This is like 1965,
Right,
66. You know, everybody's in the closet.
Right.
You know, if you're gay, except for Tracy.
Oh, okay. He had no problem with it.
He had no problem with it. Him and his buddies, you know, they would come out to the club and do all sorts of lewdness before hundreds of people on the stage. Because, you know, it was pretty gross, actually. Even then, you know, you just know right from wrong, you know, and you see
Yeah.
that, and it was like, dang, man,
Wow.
that's pretty evil right there. But anyway, they were just so flamboyant with their gayness,
Right.
you know. And for 1965, 66, that made it even more, you
Oh,
know,
yeah.
obvious. And my dad hated that I was affiliated with that band because of Tracy.
So he saw it as a bad reflection on himself
Yeah.
that his kid was.
Yeah.
So he saw it as an unseemly sort of thing. But did at any point did your parents, at this point at least, your mom must have saw that you had potential as a musician.
Yeah,
that's a huge sacrifice to send you to New York and buy a Ludwig
Yeah.
when you're from pretty much a lower middle class,
Right.
you know. And
Yeah. I don't know where she got the money from.
so what was the support like at home for this?
For her, from my mom, she was all in because, man, I was making like she and my dad had separated by that time, and she was working this job at a dry cleaners, and then she had another job at North Carolina College, which is now North Carolina Central University, working in the cafeteria, and I was working Friday, Saturday, and Sunday with the band,
Mm-hmm.
and I was making $200 a weekend
Mm-hmm.
just playing in the band.
Sure.
And that was a lot of money.
Yeah,
you know. And I just come home,
Hand it to mom.
you know.
That's
So it was
incredible.
all good.
That's incredible. So now somehow, how do you get to Detroit from there?
Well,
You're in one of maybe the most popular band in Durham, or a very popular band in Durham. Now you're cool, you're established, everybody knows you can play. Your buddy goes to Detroit.
Mm-hmm.
So
I got a college scholarship to Clark College in Atlanta because they wanted to put together an all-male. It's a black university. They wanted to put together an all-male marching band like Florida A&M.
okay,
High stepping, you know. And so me and my best friend Harold Brown went to Clark, and it's a funny thing happened. I don't know how it happened, but we were putting together a band at school. That's right. We're putting together a band at school.
not a marching band, a band.
A band, yeah, R&B band.
Uh-huh.
And I don't know how, but I met these people from Atlanta who lived in Atlanta.
Okay.
And they asked me to join this band because I could play. And this helped me in Motown, too, because I could play this groove that was really new. It's not new anymore, but at the time it was like really new. And so I started working Thursday, Friday, and Saturday at this club in Atlanta called the Pink Palace, I think it was.
Okay.
And
playing R&B and like cover songs. But we had music stands and all that because we'd play behind different vocalists. Comedian would come up and I would have to, variety show, Showtime at the Apollo.
Right. All that sort of stuff. And I did that. And I remember going out on tour with those guys. I left school, but and when we came back to Atlanta, school was out and I went to the dorm. I had to find the janitor to get him to let me in to get my clothes. And I went home. And while I was home, a bunch of my friends had joined a band with Chuck Jackson, who was a Motown singer. He had a hit called Any Day Now. And they propositioned me about being in that band. And I said, sure. And my mom said, yeah, you can go. And so we were supposed to go to the Bahamas. And I packed my drums. They were all sitting in the living room. We were, and they were supposed to come by like 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock one morning to pick me up, go to the airport. I'd gotten my passport and all that sort of stuff. Said goodbye to my mom. She went to work. And when she came home, I was still sitting in that chair. My drums were still in the living room because they had decided to go without me, but didn't tell me.
Oh, my gosh.
So it was a very humiliating and embarrassing moment. And they were gone for like a week and a half. And but to their credit, as soon as they got back, they got in touch with me and were very apologetic.
Okay.
Because it just worked out that Chuck wasn't ready for a new person in the band yet.
Uh-huh.
So he had the guitar player play drums. He could play a little bit.
Right.
But by the time it was over, Chuck was ready for a new person in the band.
Gotcha. That makes sense.
Yeah. And so that when they went out again, I was in the band.
Okay.
And we worked at what's called the Chitlin Circuit.
Of course. Up
and down the East Coast. And we went to Detroit and played the 20 Grand Hotel in Detroit. And that's where I met Norman Whitfield.
No kidding.
Mm-hmm.
He was at the show.
Mm-hmm. Because it was a Motown act.
Yeah, sure.
All the Motown artists did records there. Temptations did a live record there. Parliament Funkadelic was always there. Met those guys.
But by this point in your career, had you have a career? You know, it was barely by then. It just started. You meet one of the most important record producers who ever lived, and that's not any kind of exaggeration or hyperbole. But at that point, are you like, oh no, this is it. This is what I want to be. This is who I am. A drummer.
Yeah.
Or was it just
because I had been to college and I figured, nah, this is not for me. You know. It's not coming that easy, whereas like drumming was, I didn't have to do anything. It was just like there,
right?
You know what I'm saying? And everything was just coming to me. I wasn't.
Everything was lining up.
Yeah, I wasn't like actively pursuing and networking and that sort of thing. It was just like things would just come. Okay. Just like Norman Whitfield just came.
Now, what was his introduction to you like?
He introduced himself.
Okay, and what did he have to say?
And he said, I'm putting together this group called the Undisputed Truth, and we're doing a record right now, and I want you to come up and be in the band and be the band leader.
The band leader?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
I said, okay. He said, well, I'll call you, and we'll set it up for you to come. And this is like 1970, and the draft for Vietnam was very intense, and I got drafted. And so Chuck Jackson sent me to a doctor, quote unquote, in Detroit, and to find something wrong with me, to keep me out of the Army. And so this physician deduced that I had bad knees. And
a drummer with bad knees,
You're right. So he wrote up this report that I had bad knees. We sent it in, and I went home off the road, I think, in November. And when I got there was a draft notice, and I had to report in January. I think it was like January 21st of 1971. And, we didn't have cell phones and all that sort of stuff back then. You just had one landline. I didn't have Norman's phone number. He had mine. It was at my mom's house. And so I went in the Army. I was 2 weeks out from finishing basic training, and I was out shooting for score. They put you in all your infantry gear, 3 layers of clothes, hard hat, your weapon, backpack full of stuff, simulation. Mm-hmm. And that morning we went out. It was raining, like sheets of rain, and it rained like that all day. And we're shooting targets in that kind of weather. And I broke out in webs. The detergent washed out of my clothes, and I broke out in webs. And folks, we're out of time.
We have to do a part 2. We barely got to Detroit.
Yeah, barely.
In fact, we only visited Detroit.
Yeah, right. So we'll be back next week, everybody.
Man, thanks for letting me do this.
Yeah, my pleasure.
This is Jackie Bertoni from Jackie's Groove. Come join me weekly on my journey through the music business as I take you behind the velvet rope, interviewing industry notables such as Al DiMeola, Michael McDonald, and Al Jarreau, to name but a few. Listen to their stories on being in the studios recording #1 hits and onto the stages throughout the globe. Allow me to be your music historian. You can hear me live every Monday at 2 p.m. and every Wednesday at 12 noon Pacific Standard Time or 24/7 on jackiesgroove.com. Ready to get your groove on?
Hi, this is Tim Dolbear from Eclectica Studios. I'm a full-time mixing and recording engineer. I work with Grammy winners, labels, and indie artists, using state-of-the-art digital mixing and restoration tools and the very best in analog gear. Really, though, it's my ability to bring tracks to life and fulfill your vision for your music. This has made me sought after by producers and artists worldwide. So spend your time working on music and not chasing a mix down a rabbit hole. Go to timdolbear.com and check out our free one-song mix offer.
You know what's all around you every waking moment of your life? Marketing. You're choking on it. I'm Scott Robertson, and when it comes to strategic PR, branding, and marketing, I've seen it all. And actually, I'm still seeing it because bad marketing never sleeps. Join me each week on May the Best Brand Win, right here on Intertalk Radio, and learn how to make the marketing for your brand unforgettable.
Are you serious about your music? Are you ready to run with the big dogs? The experts at Pitbull Audio have the gear to get you into the game. From leading manufacturers like Mesa Boogie, Fender, Pioneer, and American Audio. To sound your best, you need the best. Pitbull Audio can deliver in rehearsal, on stage, and into the big time. Dropping beats, shredding guitar, or making the crowd roar. Whatever you dream, Pitbull Audio can help make it happen. We are Pitbull Audio. We want you to play it loud. PitbullAudio.com.